All right, so here was a game I just played, and I'm really proud of because I thought I played it really nicely, and I thought it would be a nice example of something I've been sort of wanting to make a video about. So in the end, what this video is going to be about is pulling the trigger. And I don't have a clear thesis on this, so this all may come across as muddled, but you've calculated one move, and you're pretty confident it's all right, and you've started calculating another move when low on time. Either the move is more complicated or you spent less time on it, but you had your move that you were pretty sure was okay, and you have another move now that has higher upside, but also you haven't checked completely, maybe as a higher risk type move, and you're curious or you're scared whether to pull the trigger on the higher risk, potentially better move or the low risk option. And so that's what eventually this is going to be about, because I think in this game I made a good decision on it, but it is also possible that I made the practically wrong decision. We'll go into it. Um, and so yeah, this is a game against Doom Train from the first GB, where I'm the first turn player. I ended up playing him. I know I always insult side starters and then sometimes end up playing them. I just couldn't see anything else. There weren't really directional weaknesses in his hand. The biggest one was to the left. He only has the 2-3-3-4, but I couldn't see a way to exploit it that I was happy with. Um, there's definitely ways to try to attack it here, right? You know, if you start something like this, the only way they can immediately approach is to use all that leftward power. But I didn't really have like a great setup in 6 or anything I was too excited about here, and they can also use 5 or 1. Probably not 1, because then the game's still really directed to the left, but 5 to set stuff up. And I don't know. Couldn't find anything that appealed, went for the generic move. I think Doom Train made the kind of smart conventional move. Take safety, and specifically with the point that he can make a threaten 5 after with 5-3-2-1 and 8. Notably, it is a shared threaten 5. I also have that square covered, but it means he can set up an L, he keeps his one card with good value to the left, he has a serious threaten 5. Also, it's hard for me to sequence. For instance, if I play my, obvious move safety in 1, he goes 5, I block 5, I have just set him up for 2, and this would be a disaster. So there's a lot going for his move, and I really didn't like the look of this. I had a couple ideas here we'll get into, but I thought this was a slightly better version. And we might think, why do I want to hold on to this card rather than this card when this card has more kind of leftward power? Specifically, the 4 plays pretty well against most of his hand's rightward power, while the 3 does not particularly. It could have been that I saw combo synergies with the 3 getting sames and pluses. That's not the case. It was more I wanted a couple things. One is I create a little bit of a trap. He can't play here. Not that I ever thought he would. But also, I thought if I hold on to this card potentially can be the thing I play in 5, which lets me hold on to this longer. And while I'd usually rather have this in my hand than this, I'd definitely rather have this in my hand than either. So anything that lets me hold on to this longer, I thought was going to be beneficial, and I decided holding on to this card did that. Also, just every time I calculated a line, this card was uncomfortable, so decided to use it. Anyways, we're now reaching the position that I want to talk about. So here's our position. And I want to start by talking a little about calculation. There are 15 possible moves for me in this position. And because there are 3 cards for 5 squares, so 15 possible moves, they have 12 possible replies. So over the next 2 moves, there are 180 possible sequences, 15 times 12, leading to the last 3 moves of the game. On the last 3 moves, there are always 24 sequences. So we have 180 possible sequences of 24, which leads to about 4,000 moves total. So in 5 minutes, if you can see 4,000 moves, you can calculate every move here to completion. I cannot. I think if you're not Nimloth, you can't either. But basically 5 moves is this really interesting point. because there are people who can be perfect with 4 moves left. They can literally just see every possible sequence. But I don't think any player is going to be perfect with 5 moves left. Especially in a 5-minute game rather than a 7 or a 9-minute game. But even in a 7 or 9-minute game, if you have 600 seconds to see 4,000 moves, are you really doing it? Are you really seeing 7 moves a second-ish? I don't know. Maybe. But it seems to me like the jump between 4 and 5 moves is the jump between when, for the best calculators, full calculation is possible to when full calculation is impossible. Does that mean you can't see things correctly? No, it doesn't. If you ask the right questions and calculate the right lines, you can massively limit how much you need to calculate. Calculating 4,000 moves is really difficult, but, incredibly difficult. But if you instead of having 15 possibilities here, you can cut that to 3, then 4,000 moves becomes 800. If you can, cut it to 2, then, it becomes 500 something, right? And suddenly we can approach attainability. And if also we can continue to prune as we look through their moves, we don't have to see everything to calculate a move correctly. We have to see the moves that matter. So getting 5 moves right is mostly, obviously it takes a lot of calculation ability, but it is largely figuring out which moves matter. So we have an L. L is a very common formation, one most players will have a lot of familiarity with and some instincts for. I think there's sort of a few main questions, given some understandings. There is a serious threat for the opponent to go in 5. So the question is, do I need to occupy 5 before they do? Do I have to go there now? That's option 1. A move in 5 immediately. A second option is, can I force them to go 5 such that it favors me, or such that I have a clear sequence after? And we'll get into how to do that. And the third type of option is, can I set it up so if they occupy 5, I can occupy a square of similar value? So that one actually we'll start with. For instance, if I play in 6, I can pair the squares 5 and 9. And often diagonal squares with everything touching both of them being occupied already, meaning the squares in 6 and 8 are already occupied. Now, if they go 5, I can potentially play in 9 and try to get a square of similar value. Now here we'll see this worked out terribly. And I think in general in this position, the moves in 6 did not appeal to me at all. I could not create a good threat in 9. So I couldn't create a paired square that would compete with the value that 5 has for them. And so I ended up dismissing possibilities in 6 pretty quickly. But I think it is worth noting, if I go something in 6 and they occupied, 9 first with something, I then would have a square that's pretty good. I'd get 5, and that could be pretty high value, specifically due to having a combo after this. But even then, if I didn't have the combo at the end, this would be kind of suspicious if they have the plus. So 6 did not appeal to me. 6 can be an option, and the idea is to create these paired squares. I know they have a threat in 5, but I can create a similar or better value threat in 9. Here, I can't really, so I don't like it. So another option is just to block 5. And I have the choices of, do I want to do it while capturing or while not capturing? And luckily, I'm not walking into a plus and 2, right? This was one of the reasons this was another reason I preferred this move order, is because if I have to use this card here, I have walked into serious problems in 2, right? By putting this card in 1, if I have now multiple options for how to plus, and while this one still walks into bad news, I now have an option that does not walk into the same disaster. However, there's the question of, and I thought maybe this position's okay, because this card is overworked. It is their only card that can affect either of these squares. They should take 2 or 9, but hopefully, given that they don't have a threat now in the other square, I have time to do something. And indeed, we can get a tie here. So this was a way to get a tie. And I do believe this is a tying move. Yeah, this is a tying move. And maybe actually a kind of tricky tying move, because they can't... I don't think they can go in 9 here, because I win this way. And they've used up their left power. Again, they used up the 1 card they needed. But this is not a hard tie to find, so my actual winning chances here would have been very low. This was a tying line. I'm not sure if I calculated it as exactly a tie or as in I had no winning chances. One practical decision while playing is how much do you check a move? Do you check it until you've decided this isn't very promising, or do you make sure it's a tie? And it's pretty useful to spend enough time to make sure it's a tie. One reason I didn't spend enough time here to make sure this move in 5 tied was I already had a backup tie ready to go that I had found. So when I was looking at this move, I was looking at it after another move that I had decided was a tie and would be my move if I couldn't find anything better. And this didn't seem promising, so I stopped looking here. So that's if I block 5 or if I try to set up a paired threat with 5. So our final type of move is one that forces them to go in 5, but then does well in the aftermath. And so my intended move here, and the one I spent a couple minutes checking, probably about half my time. It was a 5-minute game, but you know, you don't always check the game immediately, so you lose a bit of time there. Was here in 2. And my point was, in everything I was looking at, this card's lack of left power made it the least good card in my hand. It is also, importantly, if they take the plus in 5, not flipped, which will give me more options later, because I just won't have a need to flip it back. But also, the core idea was, if I go here, I have a serious threat in 5, right? Their response to here is often to go in 2, right? I block that square such that if I get to go in 5, I will have a big advantage. Therefore, they are very likely to have to take 5 themselves, and if I can calculate out something from here, I have forced this position, right? My move is forcing, so it is easier to see a continuation. And even if it looks like I'm temporarily behind, because I can know the moves are forced, it's an easy line to calculate. And I think in general, I've been calling this the C formation, which, you know, makes sense visually. I think in general, it is a pretty good response to the L. And so it's one of the things I looked at first, and I saw if they go there, I can go here, and my 3-2-4-4 is guaranteed enough captures. Their only capture loses because I have the combo. And if they don't capture, you know, that walks into this. This also walks into a combo because I comboed the card in 9, which flipped the other 2. I also plus the card in 5, or same the card in 5. So their only tie would be to go here. But they would tie. I saw he has a tie there, but it's only the one tie, and this is a secure tie for me. So I was pretty happy with this move. And that's when I spotted, as I was scanning for other possibilities, because I had found what I thought was a tie, right? I was pretty sure this was a tie, and I was correct. I didn't think anything in 5 was promising, so I was looking for other possibilities. And I noticed, if they play 5-4-2-2 and 5, they can't take it back from 2. So I started looking at lines where I concede 5 to them without a paired square and just checking if the lines work. And specifically, this is safe, which is another reason to check it. And it seemed to me, if they took 5 immediately with 5-4-2-2, I'm not going to move the cards for this one because this is the one I was really calculating with, 70 seconds on the clock. I start looking at this move. I see 5-4-2-2 and 5. I think I can go 3-2. Actually, let's even not put the card down. So 4-2-5-2 and 9. They play 5-4-2-2 and 5. I go 3-2-4-4 in 6. Is my 2-4-3-3 a sweeper at the end that wins? And I thought it was. I also checked if I go 4-2-5-2 and 9. They go 2-3-3-4 and 2. I thought I had a good option there. We'll get to what that was in a sec. And lastly, if they go in 3, I thought that was a potentially scary square. They didn't have a way to set up combos against both my cards in 1 and 9. And in fact, it's hard for them to set up on either. Yeah, they don't have a setup in either in 3. And that was all I kind of had time to check, was I had my 2 main responses, I thought 2 and 5, and I thought I had good moves against both. And I thought there was nothing in 3, and now I'm out of time. And the question is, and I'm stopping calculating with 20 or 30 seconds left because I have to make a practical decision, right? I have to choose, am I going to go with the move that I know is good? Like, that's at least a tie, I'm never losing, and maybe I have small winning chances, though I don't think I'd ever win with this move. Or am I going with a move that feels riskier because I give up 5 entirely, but I think I've checked the 2 main moves? Now, one thing I've been working on in my play is making sure in a tricky position to have checked a move to completion. So one game I lost in the second GB in Open to Tezuka was because I had never fully checked to make sure a move was tying. And so in the end, as my time's running out, I kind of panic played a move that seemed like maybe this is promising and ended up losing the game to a very nice and immediately played reply by Tezuka. He's very sharp. But it really clarified for me that I have to be more careful in my calculation. If I start looking at moves and I don't follow any of them out to the final result, I just sort of go, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. That seems okay. I gotta stop on the okay move and be like, let's make sure it works. And here I had done that, right? I had done the proper calculation thing. I had made sure 2 works. And I wasn't sure if 9 did. So that leaned me towards just doing 2. I am a cautious player. I really don't want to lose. And I knew that move didn't lose. On the other hand, is 9 promising enough? Or did I calculate critical enough lines that 9 is worth playing anyway? And I decided the answer was yes here. I decided that if they don't have a big setup in 3, they only have 1 move they can play in 5, and I'm really sure I have a nice response to that. And they only have 1 move they can play in 2, and I'm really sure I have a nice response to that. They have very limited captures, and they have limited setups, right? When I play in 9, which I did play, I didn't see any setups in 3, and they only have 2 moves that capture. If they find something else, okay, but they also have limited power in the direction of the game. I thought it was clear enough there that I had checked enough of what was relevant, even in limited time, because they had so few tools, that it was worth pulling the trigger on this one. And I think the reasons to move off pulling the trigger is if your opponent has either combo potential on the board, or you see them having combo potential in their hand. But I didn't see any setups for them. And notably, my threat to combo in 5 isn't that great with the 3-2-4-4, but it is pretty good with the 2-4-3-3. Though even that sets them up in 6. So maybe I should have been a little more worried than I was. But also when I looked at their move in 2, I wasn't intending to reply in 5. And that ended up being how the game went. And it turned out I calculated correctly, and I'm really proud of this move, which is why I'm making this video, because I think it's a difficult move to see, because I concede 5 so entirely, and I'm not looking to get some massive combo back. I just noticed in this position it's 5-5. They're next to all my cards, but I have everything comboed. They cannot play in 3 without being comboed, either card. And they cannot play in 2 without being comboed. Alright, that one's not comboed, but it doesn't need to be. So I saw that this wins, and I was right about that. And then the other move, which is what he ended up playing, was he captured in 2. And I saw I could set up massive combo potential going in 3, where I had combos on every card he could play in either square. And he ended up giving me the 8-2, which was nice of him. given that this is a format where score counts. But you'll notice I have a same or plus on every move he can play here, and on all of them I'm comboing extra cards. So for instance, 4-2, 4-2 is the only thing I don't have a same, but I still have the plus using the 3 and the 4, and win 7-3. So I thought this was a nice win, but I also think it's an interesting question of how confident do you need to be to play the higher risk move? And I think one thing about it is I was confident this move had better winning chances, right? There was a chance it was winning on the spot. I knew this wasn't a win. This could have been a win, and it turned out was a forced win. This was a really nice move, and Doomtrain was really unlucky to lose here, having played two very sensible moves in 7 and 8. I think just really unlucky here. He did logical things before the point where calculation takes over, and it happened to lose. That sucks, right? But from my angle, this clearly had higher winning chances. So the question was, did it have any losing chances? And I decided they were not sufficient to scare me off the move, right? I decided they were really, really low, that it was really unlikely for them to have anything. And depending on the format you're playing, like if you're playing against someone who's massive favorite against you, maybe it's worth taking a risk to go for that win, because especially if it's an elimination format, because if you play more randoms against them, you're so likely to lose that a slim chance at a win is worth that risk. If you're playing in an elimination format and you're playing someone a lot weaker than you, you should generally just take the safe tie, because you should trust as you play more games, you will continue to be big favorite, and a risky move here is probably your biggest chance of losing a game. So there's all kinds of situational decisions to make, and in general, in tournament formats, I would advocate playing on the whole on the safe side, because I'm really scared of being eliminated, obviously. But also, I'm usually a favorite in my matches, so for me, moving towards caution makes sense, because I think in an extended match, I will usually, have a really big advantage, and I have reasonable stamina, and hand making and stuff. So I think my advantage usually grows as a match goes on, and thus it is good for me to make cautious decisions. Depending on who you're playing and what you kind of think the priors are you more likely to adjust hands well? Do you have good stamina? Which doesn't mean, if you tend to collapse after a few games that you should play as if you're about to collapse. You should try to figure out ways to maintain concentration better. But we should adjust to the strengths and weaknesses we have. And for me, my strengths and weaknesses tend to lead me to make cautious decisions. But here, I thought this was low risk and had really high reward, and so I leaned towards it. But if they had a move in 3 that sets up some combo potential, I would not have made this move. And that move might not have tied for them. That still could have been a losing move. But that would have been the kind of move that would make me lose here. I was pretty confident I had 2 and 5 correctly calculated. If they don't have a good move in 2 or 5, I also checked 5. Can they go in 5? Not taking anything, but setting up combos in 2 and 6. And they didn't have a good way to do this. This sets up 2, but not 6, and I'll have an easy enough time blocking that, right? So they had limited capture threats. They had incredibly limited ability to set up further combos. And so I don't think I needed to have calculated that many lines to pull the trigger. But again, if, they had a move in 3 that set up a threat in 2 and 6, I can't make this move. I don't think. It may actually win, but I don't know that. I don't have enough time to check it, and I should make the safe move. And that's, I kind of think, where the, in this situation, where the pulling the trigger point would be. And probably should have more examples. I was just excited about this game because I tend to make cautious decisions. I didn't, and I was rewarded for it, which feels good. But I also think it was fairly clearly on the once you spot this move, and I think it's a hard move to see. Once you spot it, it's pretty clearly quite strong. And thus, even if I'm wrong and it doesn't work, it's not working probably means it's a tie, not a loss. And so I think was a comfortable move to make in the end. Only a little bit scared, and end up getting a win against really solid looking play from Doom Train. So I'm very happy with this win because it's rare that you get to pull something out like this. And I think my move in 1 was great. I think it's really easy to make the sort of chalk capture back safely move, but it made the L so much stronger. And here, I'm not winning. You know, if I follow with the same move, I think they can just block 5. And, you know, the same line doesn't work. I lose. And I can go here. But this doesn't win either. So yeah, I think I made a really good decision on move 3. In general, side starters I think are low pressure in the sense that, like, no matter what the opponent does, if they do something sane, you're not going to be winning immediately. But the real goal of a side starter is on the next move to find a way to pressure them a lot. And often that is taking the safety, but you got to make sure it plays well against the L. And this move played a little better against the L, so was my preference. And then I was just really lucky here. But I think I made a really good move to set up the chance to be lucky. And then I think I pulled the trigger correctly on a move I hadn't fully checked, but that seemed really promising. So I'm really pleased with this game. That's why I wanted to show it. I think, you know, I haven't played much of recent, though my videos have been going up constantly. That's because I played a hell of a lot 2 months ago. But this is a game I'm really proud of. I think really good practical decision making and calculating the key lines. I guess that's one more thing I want to focus on, is what are the main moves in positions. Like here, I'm going to go in 1. But I know what the main response is going to be. The response is going to be an L in 2 or 8. And I have multiple options of what to put in 1. Even this is not crazy. They still only have 1 way to take it. But now I have no way to combo back, because the card I'd want to combo back in 5 is 4/2/4/2. This card uses up too much relevant power. So it was really between these two. And this one, once you notice you can combo this back, doesn't really have that big of a downside compared to taking the immediate safety. And thus the question is going to be, which responds better to 5/3/2/1 and 8, which is the standard L for him to play. And I was pretty confident that this responded better. Because again, if I have to use this card here, I'm in trouble. Be it because of this, or be it because of this. And so I need to hold on to this one so that I can potentially go in 5 without setting them up in 2. So it was making moves, but aware that the key is not whether they can immediately take me or not. The key is, how does the L work? And do I have ways to handle the threat in 5 if they get an L? And I think I correctly decided 3/3/3/4 in 1 gave me a better way to handle the L. And here I had a couple ideas. I could block 5, and blocking 5 was fine. I could play in 2, force them to go 5, get the worst card out of my hand, and set up an ending sequence where I have a tie and they have a chance to screw up, but it's pretty low. Or potentially I can find something else to do, and I did end up doing that. That's all I got. Yeah, just a game I'm really, really happy with.